I want to start by thanking the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Diversity and Inclusion, Congresswoman Ann Wagner, for all of her work. She and our colleagues on the subcommittee have spent a great deal of time gathering information about diversity and inclusion in the financial services jurisdiction. They have found that more than 40% of companies already disclose the demographics of their boardrooms in annual proxy statements. The companies that do so are demonstrating a commitment to increasing diversity at the director level. Our committee has heard from a series of witnesses that an organizational emphasis on diversity is one of the keys to recruiting and retaining women and minorities. As I said, many companies are already being very proactive with respect to disclosing board demographics without any legal requirement to do so. Those firms are taking this issue seriously. We need to do the same. But here is one concern that I do have, that this bill, which I support, is nevertheless incompatible with Mr. Meeks's bill in a way that undermines our effort here today. If we are truly committed to increasing diversity in the private sector, we should not be asked to vote on duplicative and inconsistent pieces of legislation. Specifically, the Meeks bill and the Maloney bill each create advisory councils to research and report on diversity in the private sector, but the structures and the functions of those councils are inconsistent. The disclosure requirements required under the two bills is also incompatible. So, again, if we are truly committed to increasing diversity in the private sector, we should not be asked to vote on duplicative and inconsistent pieces of legislation. One suggestion would be to combine those two bills into a single coherent piece of legislation. That should have happened already. It's unclear to me why we're voting on two bills that are incompatible. Nevertheless, I can commend my friend from New York, the gentlelady from New York, for her commitment to this issue and for her good work here. I'm voting yes on her bill. I'm voting yes on Mr. Meeks's bill as well. I just think that we ought to put them together and make them coherent and compatible. And in a way that will resolve the differences that will not undermine the opportunity before us. Let me make one final point and then I'll yield back. And that is that in our committee hearings, we heard powerful testimony about the benefits of diversity in corporate governance. I think that's unmistakable. I think it's totally sensible, and it makes a lot of sense that when you have diverse views, diverse backgrounds, you have better perspective, broad perspectives and different perspectives where competing views can come together and provide a strengthened corporate governance structure. But I think that we also heard some powerful testimony that just simply having kind of mandated quotas is really not true diversity. That when there is a kind of mandated diversity quota system, that's not what really gets the diversity that the corporation, the public company really needs. So we should all keep that in mind as we look to improving and enhancing diversity on these corporate boards, that what we're striving for is not just tokenism, but is true diversity, and that would include a diversity of opinions and viewpoints and backgrounds regardless of immutable characteristics like race or gender. So once again, I would urge my colleagues to work on making the Meeks bill and the Maloney bill more compatible, and I trust that my colleagues will resolve those differences going forward. And with that, Madam Chairwoman, I yield back.